Hey everybody, it's Michelle at Cave of Crystal, and I'm here to talk to you today about crystal grids. When I do live shows on Facebook, I sometimes offer very small crystals and say, hey, these would be good for gridding. And I'm always asked, what does that mean? What's a grid? What's its purpose? What do you do with it? So today I'm going to explain a little bit about the very basics of crystal grids. Now, there are tons of books on crystal grids alone on the market, books that are totally dedicated to explaining different grid patterns, how to lay them out, which crystals to use, and things of that nature. As with everything that I share with you on these videos and in my shows, I really want you to use those books as references, but the primary reference I would really want you to use is you. Listen to your intuition, listen to your gut. What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for you. We're all unique. We all have unique energy signatures to our bodies. And so our unique signature interacts with crystals in its own unique way. So everybody that, say, uses green aventurine in a prosperity grid, maybe this isn't the right stone for you. Maybe you need to work with a different stone. Maybe you need to work with citrine, for example, as opposed to green aventurine for that purpose. So that's really what I'm going to talk first about, is listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. So let me explain what a grid is. A grid is simply this. It is a pattern of crystals in an arrangement around a focal point, a center point. That's it. That's all a grid is. So what is the purpose of using a grid? The grid is simply to focus an intention. So that center focal crystal is representative of your intention. Now let me talk a little bit to you about what intentions are and how you can kind of maybe go on the wrong path with an intention. So talking about crystal grids, they can take on many shapes. So remember, it's just a pattern of stones around a central focal point. So those patterns could be connected to numerology, they could be connected to astrology, to your chakra system, or to sacred geometry, or they can be completely intuitive. One great story I read, I think it's quite a while ago, I saw it on Facebook. It was about this lady who had her grandson come over, and she was a big crystal lover, had a huge crystal collection, and her grandson, who was about 5 or 6, really vibed to all the stones. He loved her crystal collection. He loved handling the stones and just sitting with them. So one day she was in the kitchen and her grandson asked her if he could, touch and work with her stones. And she said, sure. When she came back out, he was intuitively building a crystal grid on her coffee table. And it was amazing. Like, he didn't know the identities of every single stone or what have you, but he created this central focal point and then built this amazing grid that covered the entire table and then worked its way down onto the floor and across the room. And he did this on instinct. And there's something to be learned here. That's what I really want you to focus on, is finding out instinctively what works for you. Now you can look up numerological patterns, you could look up sacred geometry patterns, you could use pre-printed crystal grids, which I'll show you in a bit. But the thing is that you have to really just find what works for you and what works for you for that particular intention. So you can use the pre-printed grids. It's great because you can set them up anywhere in your house, but you don't have to. They could be anywhere. They could be on the floor, on a table. You could use, say, like a cloth or a scarf. You could put them indoors, outdoors, big, small. Crystal grids are just a pattern of stones around a central focus stone. So use your imagination. They can be absolutely anywhere. Also, another thing about grids, remember this, the human body, is also a grid. And if you are interested in healing with crystals, this is the canvas that you work with, is the human body. Now, it is difficult, I will say, to practice crystal healing on yourself, on the body. Why? Because you're reaching for crystals at the same time you're laying on the floor and you're trying to place crystals on different points of your body. It's hard. It's really hard. I suggest that you try to hold all of the crystals in one hand when you lay down and then gently try to place them. But still, it's difficult. Like say you have to place them at your feet and then your knees and then your hips. Just be patient and try to do it. It's always great to work with a partner when you're doing crystal healing on the body, or to work with a crystal healer who is familiar with the different meridians of the body. There are great books about crystal healing on the body, and I have a couple of those. It works great, but again, it's really difficult to do when you're just by yourself. So just keep that in mind. Body is great. You can also go around the body. So if you use your body as the central focus for your grid, you can build your crystal grid going around the body, just like you would going around a central crystal, and then lay down in the center, sit in the center of your crystal grid, and you become the conductor of that energy. So that's just another way to work with gridding. So intentions. What are intentions? Intentions are something that we want to manifest in our lives. An intention can be and I hate using these words, but it can be a positive thing. So we're drawing something into our life that we want, or it could be a negative thing where we're repelling something out of our life that we don't want. In the realm of energy, positive charge and negative charge, there are no connotations of judgment. And there's a kitty walking by, you saw a shadow. No connotations of judgment. Things that have a positive charge just draw in. Things that have a negative charge just repel. There's no good, bad going on here. It's just neutral. It's just what it is. It's just energy. So when you're thinking about your intentions, don't think so much about what is a good judgment intention versus a bad judgment intention, because you will constrict the actual focusing of your intention in a way that you might not want to. So say for instance, I want to build a grid to attract abundance into my life. Now, what could possibly go wrong with that intention? You might have noticed that just saying the word abundance is pretty general. And this is where you can kind of misstep with setting an intention. If I just create a grid to focus on bringing abundance into my life, the next day I could wake up to a herd of ants coming in my front door and getting into my house. Is that abundance? Oh, sure is. Is it the abundance I want? No way. So what is really crucial about setting intentions is be specific as possible. So specific intentions must be specific if you really want to manifest that particular thing. So say that, again, going back to the abundance example, say you want abundance. So how do you hone it down and drill it down to what you really want? What is it that you really want? So I find it very helpful to ask the questions. And the questions are, what is it that I really want? Why? How? And when? And then I keep on going down. So say with abundance, I really want to have a lot of positive energy in my life. Okay, so how would that manifest? When is it going to manifest? Why? Why do I want positive energy? Well, I want my life to be full of love and good thoughts. So, okay, that's really general again. So what is it that I really want here? Do I just want love in my life? Do I want something specific? How do I want that to manifest in my life? How would more love in my life manifest? What would it look like? When would it happen? How would it happen? So keep going down and down and down, and maybe that abundance drills all the way down to, oh, I really want to have time every day to take care of myself and show my self-love. So be specific. When you are specific, the hows become much easier to figure out. So, and that's the important thing. You have to put your intentions into an actionable action, something you can do to help facilitate that abundance coming into your life, that intention coming into your life. So if you don't do anything actionable, if you're general and just say, oh, abundance, I'll take abundance, you're not going to get what you really, really want. And this is why things like, I'm not going to try to knock it too much, but I remember years back when The Secret was really big, and it didn't talk enough about this piece, which is the hows. How do you hone something down enough so that you can take action on it, and that you have to take action on your intentions? Otherwise, they don't manifest, or they just manifest in a really general, ambiguous sort of way. Like the ants, for example. They come marching into your house. That's not what you really asked for, or is it? So when you leave it wide open, you can have a wide open response. So get specific, drill it down, ask those questions. What do you want to have happen? Why, which is very important. Why do you want to have it happen? How you're going to have it happen, and then when. And that will help you when you're setting up your crystal grids to really start manifesting what you're attempting to manifest. The next step in preparing to set up your grid is choosing that central crystal. That central crystal is going to hold that energy in order to manifest. I go back to my quartz video. Quartz is always my favorite crystal to put into the center of a crystal grid. The reason being is that it is a master conductor. So any of the energy of the supporting crystals that you place around it is going to channel into that quartz and then amplify. So personally, that's what I do. What you do is really up to you. And again, starts with going into your intuitive self. Pick up a crystal, see how it feels, see how it wants to be used. And then after that, after you get clear how you can use it for yourself, then go to your crystal Bible, then go to your encyclopedia of crystals, and then look up the meaning and see whether it has anything to do with what you're experiencing. It may or may not. It may give you additional information about that crystal, which is helpful, or it may not jive with you at all. And different crystal books are going to say different things about the same crystal. It's all based on that author's experience with that crystal and not necessarily your experience with that crystal. So again, use those kind of reference books as a supplement to your intuition, but rely on your intuition first, and it will not steer you wrong if you listen. So next you want to choose your stones, your support stones, to go around the central intention stone. Again, use your intuition. Let the stones pick you as opposed to you picking them. And then after collecting those stones together, then look them up and then see what that crystal grid book says in order to set up your grid. It can give you a lot of information, again, to support you in that process. But listen to this. This knows best. So in the next part of the video, I'm actually going to construct some grids for you. So I'm going to switch over to an overhead view so you can see what I'm doing on my grids. I'm going to use a selection of different grids. I'm going to try setting some up with some wooden grids that you can use. You can also use pre-printed grids, like I have this one. I just got it on Amazon. This is the Flower of Life pattern. I have a scarf that I may use for a grid. I have a slab of selenite. That's another thing you can use, is use a crystal slab, a stone slab. And then I have some other, these are on cork. These are printed on cork, and they're actually smaller. And I have like really small ones that you can use for little mini grids around your house or at your office. Nobody will know what you're doing if you make a grid on your, I have like a little grid on my computer. Nobody knows what it is but me, which is cool. So let me switch over and I'll talk to you soon. After this video is done, I will be posting on my Cave of Crystal Facebook page, and then I'll also post them on Instagram as well to link them over. Sale videos that have tumbles, small bags of chips and tumbled stones, and some small points. And these will be helpful in creating your crystal grids. I'll be right back. So the first grid I'm going to show you is the abundance grid I talked about in my example in the video. So for this grid, I've decided to use a pre-printed Flower of Life pattern. Now the Flower of Life is a sacred geometrical pattern that is repeated in nature in many ways. It's thought to represent cellular structure, formations within natural occurrences. Flocks of birds seem to fly in the pattern of the Flower of Life. You can read lots about the Flower of Life. It's a really beautiful and wonderful symbol. Certainly gives a great focal point for your crystal grid. Now, the reason I chose this one is that personally, I respond to this shape and pattern in a really open, loving way. I feel my heart opening. I feel like it's a beautiful and amazing representation of the universal energy. So that's why I've chosen it. Now you may choose a different pattern, or you may choose no pattern at all and work from a blank slate. Again, it's really about listening to your heart, listening to your gut, and figuring out what works best for you. So in all the crystal grids I'm going to show you, I'm going to use one of my favorite quartz crystals. I love this crystal. It's Rainbow Central. It's a beautiful piece. I've had it for years and years and years, worked lots with it. And this particular crystal works really well for me with focusing my energy. This crystal knows me. I've had it for a really long time. And so it knows my pattern of energy really well. So this is going to be my central focus in creating this grid for creating more time for myself every day for self-love. And even more specifically, creating 30 minutes per day of self-love time. So I've already gone and chosen which crystals I want to use for the grid. It's a long process. You have to sit with them, really figure out whether or not they're going to work for this grid or not. Again, be careful, be systematic, or be completely intuitive. It's up to you. I work more intuitively. I just grab whatever speaks to me, and then I sit with it while I'm setting up my grid and say, does this work? Is this right? And if I get a yes, then I use it. So in this case, I have garnet. So I've gotten myself some garnet tumbles, and I'm going to set this up in a pattern around that central crystal using the Flower of Life pattern to create a container, a space for love to occur right there. That's my self-love time every day, is embodied in that central crystal. That's what I want to pull in from the universe, and I'm going to surround it with the garnet crystal, which speaks to me of self-care and self-love. Now, is that the definition that's in a book? Not necessarily, but that's what it is to me. Another crystal that really speaks to me about self-love and also emotional balance and emotional health and well-being is Moonstone. So that's what I've chosen as my next stone to place into the grid. And these are going to go in a supporting fashion around the garnet Oops, I want you to stay there. And I'm going to set those up and I'm going to check, does this feel right? Does this feel right to me that this is supporting my intention? Maybe not. Maybe once you start laying it in the grid, you'll decide, oh, this isn't the right stone for this particular grid. So maybe I need to switch it out, or maybe it belongs in a different position. So I'm thinking that this is not working for me in this position. So I'm going to take those out. And the next stone I've chosen is Green Aventurine. Green Aventurine is also a really great stone working with the heart chakra, but it's also a really loving stone. It's connected to the earth for me. It has a lot of supportive earth energy. And I'm thinking, if I'm creating a specific amount of time per day in my life, I need something that's grounded and connected to the earth in order to make that manifest and happen. So let me try that in this position, going around, and see if that works for me in terms of supporting this intention. Oh yeah, that feels right. This feels right. So I have this intense stone through the garnet, intense love stone, supported by actual practical grounded energy to make that manifest in that 30 minutes a day to take care of myself. And then I feel like I need the Moonstone to really open up my mind, heart, and emotions and connect to my feminine energy. So I'm going to use the Moonstone to do that, and I'm going to place that first. I'll try it in a supportive position of the garnet. Let's see how that works. Does that work? No, that's not working for me. So I'm going to take that off. And let's put it in a supportive position of the Green Aventurine. See how that works. Oh, much better. That works for me. That is it. The energy is focusing in. That's what I want it to flow into that central point. So that to me is my grid for creating a half hour of self-care every day. Now, what do you do after you create the grid? You want to ground it, first of all. So to do so and to charge it with my energy, I'm going to place my hands over the grid around it, and then starting with my solar plexus, focusing on my solar plexus, which is the place of your will, I'm going to send energy from that central part of my solar plexus down through my arms and through my hands into the grid. And I'm going to think very clearly about my intention. My intention is 30 minutes of self-care every day, doing things I love for myself during that time period. And I see that time opening up every day in my life, that it is important for me to do this, and that this is what I want to manifest for myself. And I just focus on that energy, exiting out my hands and going into the crystal grid. Now I can do this as long as I need to. And then once I'm done, I go ahead and I use sound. Now you can use sound, smoke, you can use your voice, you can use water or sprinkling of essential oils or an oil and water mixture, whatever works for you. But I use sound, and then I use my Tibetan bowl. And I ring it over the grid, allowing that sound to again permeate the crystals and center my intention. that ring die away. I also may play the bowl. Just depends on how I'm feeling. So when I feel complete, I let this grid do its job. Now, how long do you leave it there? You can leave it out as long as you need to. I find that when grids are done, they shift. So the stones might start shifting. So like the stone might tip over this way. The other stones might move a little bit, turning like a little bit around. Or I just may have a sense when I look at it that its work is done. So grids can last as long as you want them to. I remember building a huge grid across my dining room floor when the bushfires in Australia were creating so much damage, killing so much wildlife. Just a terrible time for Australia, for Mother Earth, and for its animals. So I built this huge grid across my dining room floor, and I used to do a weekly attunement with another group, a much larger group, meditating on calming the fires. And the grid was complete when the fires died down. And so it stayed up for, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks while I worked on that energy. So it's just really personal. You might find if you're really manifesting something specific, like you're going to get $500 in the mail from maybe a legal settlement that you have. When that check comes, your grid's done. It's manifested. So it's really up to you to leave your grid up for as long as you wish. And it may be for an hour. It might be for 10 days. It might be for 6 months. Really just figure out for yourself by listening to yourself what needs to happen with this grid. So this is a simple grid that I've shown you for self-care, and I'm going to show you a couple other examples of different grids to use. So the next grid I'm going to use is a pre-printed wooden grid. And this is a very thin slice of balsa wood. So it's very lightweight. You can find these. I have some in my shop. They're an inexpensive way of getting a lot of different patterns for gridding without spending a ton of money trying to find objects that have them imprinted on it. I also have these that with the cork, which is also, it's a little bit smaller, but these are also really good for setting up small grids and it being very lightweight and inexpensive. So this particular pattern is called Metatron's Cube. Metatron is the voice of God. So, and that is however you want to imagine God to be. And so I like this particular formation. It's very intricate, has a lot of really cool geometric ways of setting up, but it also directs the energy through these particular meridians. And so I find it really helpful to use this when I'm gridding and I want something really specific to happen. So in this particular grid, I want money to come into my life to pay off my car loan, specifically to pay off my car loan. So say my car loan, I have $5,000 left on my car loan. So I want $5,000 to pay off my car loan. That is specific. When I want that to happen is within the next 2 months, so 60 days. In the next 60 days, I want $5,000 to pay off my car loan. How that will happen, I'll leave that up to the universe. I am open to however that money is going to come into my life in a positive way, not in a repelling sort of way, but in a positive way that where it is helpful to me, not detrimental to me. So getting a little specific with the how, but not so specific that I cut myself off from other possibilities. So I want that $5,000 to pay off my car loan. So again, I'm going to use my central quartz crystal in the center to power that intention up and send it out into the universe. And then my next crystal that I'm going to use to attract that $5,000 is pyrite. So I have some pyrite cubes that I'm going to use, and this represents the money that I want to come into my life, specifically that $5,000. And then I'm setting up my pyrite cubes. The next crystal that I like to use with drawing in money is citrine. This works really well for me. It's a bright, happy crystal. It creates the space for that positive injection of cash into my life. This really supports that. So I'm going to play with where I'm going to put that. So first I'm going to put it on the outer ring and see how that works for me. And nope, that's not where I want it. That's not working for me. So let me try it in this cross section here. As you can see, I'm putting the points of the crystal, the natural pointed spots on the crystal, in the groove with the point, because I want that energy to be directed inward. If I wanted it to be directed outward, I would point it in the other direction. And then the last crystal I'm going to use is green jade. Again, just like with the first grid I showed you, green jade is a really grounding stone. It's connected to Mother Earth, but also it is a high abundance stone. And at least for me, it really brings in specifically money into my life. So good fortune and cash. Can't beat that. So these are the stones I'm going to try on the outside of the grid. And I already like that placement. And I'm going to play with the stones. The shape is more of a square, so I want to make sure that energy is flowing inwards. So that grid looks great to me in terms of attracting that $5,000 into my life to pay off my car loan. Now, what happens if it doesn't work? It's a possibility. Why? It's because it's not supposed to work right now. Maybe the timing is off. Maybe there is something else coming into your life that needs your energetic attention. Maybe this particular goal or intention for you is just not meant to be. Those are possibilities. We are not in control. And that is basically how it comes down to working with grids. We can set these up. We can put our attention into them, like I did before, where I place my intention into this particular grid to manifest. We can do all of this work, and then sometimes it doesn't work. And it's because there are other things going on. There are other factors that we are not aware of that are going on in our lives that we don't have control over. This is an attempt, a way of working with that uncertainty and working with manifestation. Now, you may find that you manifest something else. And in those cases, I ask you to take a look at your intention and see if it was specific enough, or look at other factors in your life and see how they were influencing your intention. Maybe you did this intention out of a place of desperation, and that energetic just permeated this grid, and it ended up repelling the very thing that you wanted to attract, because that desperation, that anxiety, that I hate using the word negative, that that negative pull towards chaos was just disrupting any intention that you wanted to do. So don't rely on grids as being the be-all to manifest everything in your life. Remember, actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than setting up crystals in a grid. That you have to put actions into your life that is going to make your intention go forward and come true. And the actions that you may have to take with getting that $5,000 to pay off your loan have to do with, you have to show up for work every day. Maybe you have to get a second job. Maybe you have to be creative with your finances. Maybe you have to cut down on expenses. You have to do all of those other things to help this happen. If you don't take action, if you just sit back and go, well, I set up my crystal grid, it should work. No, it's not the way the world works. It's not the way the universe works. The universe wants to see positive actions being taken to support this intention that you are setting up. So remember, actions must back up any of this kind of work with crystals. And that goes for any kind of crystal healing, with your health, with your wealth, with your personal space, with your job, with your hobbies, with your relationships, everything needs to be supported by positive action. Okay, the last grid I'm going to show you is on a slab and without a pattern. This is a Selenite slab that is pretty flat on top. It does have a couple of grooves, but it is pretty good for setting up gridding. And I'm going to create my own pattern on this particular surface. Now, selenite charges all crystals. It's a great protection stone, so it is an excellent stone to use for crystal grids. It'll keep all of your crystals charged and working on that particular intention. So for this particular grid, I'm going to do a protection grid for my house. And specifically, I am going to do a grid to protect my house from unnecessary noise from my neighbors, because my neighbors tend to be kind of on the noisy side. They're not here right now, but when they are not particularly, let's say, neighborly. So I am going to protect my house from unnecessary noise, and I am going to use, instead of my quartz crystal, I am going to use this directional black obsidian stone. And the reason I chose this particular stone is that black obsidian is an excellent protection stone. And then with the directions, which I will put in the correct directions, I am protecting my house on all four sides. So I am going to place this stone in the center according to where the northwest, actually it's more like this. The north is this way, got my east, south, and west. So that's all set up. Now I went around and poked in my different stones, and I decided to use some black tourmaline. Now black tourmaline also is a great protection stone. It also protects against EMF, which is a type of noise in the background. And since my neighbors tend to use a lot of electronics that I hear through the floor, I think that this stone will be excellent to set up my protection grid. So I'm going to go ahead and put these stones around the center stone, as so, and, you know, play around with the placement. Maybe I want to move this one a little bit more here. Okay, that looks good. So I have my black tourmaline around my central black obsidian tower. Next, I decided to choose some Iolite. Now, Iolite is a really spiritual stone. It's related to your third eye. And I would like to send good, positive energy to calm and maybe elevate the energy of my neighbor's home. I can't personally affect them. That's not the way it works. Everybody has free will. They can choose to do what they want. But I want to kind of pulse that higher level energy towards their home, and hopefully that will help in alleviating any kind of unneighborly behavior. But I don't know whether that's going to help them or help me deal with their noise if it does occur, which is just as good of an outcome as them ceasing noise would be if I am able to transform my ability to deal with the noise. So however this decides to manifest itself, whether supporting them or supporting me or doing both, I'm going to allow the stone to do its work. So for this stone, I think I'm going to build it out of the Tourmaline, since the Tourmaline is helping cut down on any EMF activity and protect the house. I'm going to place the Iolite around to support that in a spiritual, higher way, and see how that works. Now, the next stone I chose was red agate, and this is to ground and protect my home. I like this particular color of red agate. It is like an orange red, and to me takes care of the root chakra, the base of my home, the physical needs of my home. And let's build this protection out. Decided to have it radiate. Have it radiate out like a star. Oh, I'm missing a stone. Grab another one. There we go. So I decided I do like this formation, and I like the way it radiates out, pulling the energy both out in a protective manner this way and then focusing it in this way. So the last stone I want to add to this grid are some Apache Tears, and these are going to help me with two things. One, dealing with my emotions regarding this entire situation with my neighbors, and also protecting me, because Obsidian is a great protecting stone, as we know. And so I'm going to put a piece by every ray of this particular grid star. And the reason being is I want to support this central obsidian with an outer ring of obsidian, and also create a container. If you notice, the energy kind of changed from the carnelian radiating it out to being held. It's really being held in this circle supporting the central obsidian tower. So again, I will charge it with my own energy, putting my intention into the stones, and then I will ring the bell and then leave this grid to do its thing. Now, what are the actions that I can take in order to activate and support this grid? I can change my attitude towards my neighbors. I can work on developing a better relationship with them. I could work on solutions that I can use to protect myself from their noise. So maybe I could get noise canceling earphones to wear when I'm watching my television, so I don't have to listen to their television booming around in the background. Maybe I can play music. Maybe I can go for a walk so I can disperse that anxiety and anger that I might feel towards them when these things occur. There are lots of things that I can do, and it's up to me to make that decision to do them instead of just passively sitting and thinking, oh, the grid's going to do it for me. That's not the case. I have to support this grid doing its work. So what can I do, the how, to make this happen? And I may want to look at the why, which is, why is this happening? Why does this behavior bother me so much? And work on my own feelings and my own responses to what's going on. So this has just been a very basic introductory understanding of grids. There's lots more to grid work. There's all sorts of patterns that you can build specifically for intentions that are hopefully specific enough to manifest. So I wanted to just give you this introduction, and please shoot me any questions you might have. You can PM me, and I will continue to do this exploration of different facets of working with crystals and share that knowledge with you. So thanks a lot, and I will see you around.